Welcome to a special episode of Comic Book Wars. We're here live with a very special guest. If you would kindly introduce yourself to our live audience.
Sure. My name is Dinesh Shamdasani, and I used to be CEO and Chief Creative Officer of Valiant Comics.
Dinesh, that's not your day job today, is it?
No. I have a different day job today. Now I'm a partner in a company called Hivemind. We're producers. We produce a bunch of film and TV shows, and I will soon to be, there's the logo, Tom Mueller, gorgeous logo. And I will soon be I shouldn't say what, in a company that I probably shouldn't say much about called Bad Idea, except they have something comics.
Yeah, thanks, Dinesh. I'm not so good with the graphics, so you're gonna have to bear with me.
That was
yeah, I mean, you would think that I would be able to do a little bit better with that. We'll blame Jimmy.
So much better than those clowns on Only the Valiant.
Oh.
Talk about amateur hour.
Okay.
I'm just messing.
I take it that's your podcast?
No. Just a podcast I've been on many times that I love.
Your nearest and dearest. So tell me a little bit about what's going on at Hivemind.
So there's 4 partners. It's a very different structure than a lot of other production companies. Usually you have one kind of head of the company, and it's an actor, director, producer, etc. And the taste and bandwidth and relationships go through that one individual. It's kind of an older 20th century model. Today, there's so much IP-driven adaptation that a couple people got together, 4 of us got together and decided, why don't we try to be egoless and share? And so Hivemind, I think part of the success of Hivemind is being that we have more relationships that we can tap, 4 times as many practically, more bandwidth. There's more people whose taste can be incorporated, and we've hit the ground running. It's been fun.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the projects that are in the works. One that I know the details of which are closely guarded by Netflix is the Witcher project.
Yes.
Is there anything at all that you can tell us about what we can expect from Henry Cavill and the group at Netflix?
I can tell you, Netflix is very strict. You're absolutely right. They hate us saying anything. We've been yelled at several times already. I can tell you in 6 days, the entire series launches. That's something that they've talked about publicly. I can tell you that it's great. The show's great. Henry Cavill's awesome in it. I can tell you that Netflix went all out on the show, giving us all the resources. 2 of my partners, Jason Brown and Sean Daniel, headed that production up. Show looks great, man. I'm excited for it to drop in the world to see it.
Now, were you guys able to purchase the IP outright? I mean, I would imagine that would be a profoundly expensive purchase with the video game, or just the rights for entertainment purposes, or did you just produce the series, or how'd that go?
No, producing it's a very strange business. It's largely a terrible idea to be a producer, because what you do is essentially you say, hey, this thing over here is cool. I know film and TV, so I can help you, IP holder, by doing a lot of work speculatively and adding attachments that will make more money than I ever will. And then I will take it to this financier, in this case, Netflix, and they will spend a bunch of money to then make a television show, in this case, where they can sell those rights for a lot of money. And in the middle, you get paid a little bit of a vig, but the IP holder makes a bunch of money in success, and the financier makes a bunch of money, and you kind of just, you do well, but it's not, if you're looking for money, it's not the best business in the world.
A lot of risk involved.
Yeah, time risk. It's very different than what I did before, which was, publishing comic books and owning the IP at Valiant. That's very different. That in success can be very lucrative.
Yeah, before we talk about the rest of the projects at Hivemind, one of the things I gave you somewhat fair warning about was I wanted to know about this guy.
Yes, thank you for picking that photo.
Who is that guy? I love that photo, actually.
That is Boy CEO of Valiant Comics, Dinesh Shamdasani. That's my previous form. You can see what comics does, the publishing does to you.
So how old were you in that photo?
That's probably only about 3 or 4 years ago, man.
Okay.
It might have been 2 years ago. It's not that long ago.
And that was right after you got hired, or how long had you been there?
That was, okay, so the earliest I could have been, I would have been 30. And the latest, I would have been 35 or 36. So
it theoretically could have been like 8 years ago.
It could have been 8 years ago. I was at Valiant 15 years. I was part of a group that raised the money to purchase Valiant out of the bankruptcy auction. The company that had owned this video game company had gone bankrupt, nothing to do with Valiant, and they were selling off all their rights, all the different things that they had, including the division within the publishing division that was Valiant. I was part of the group that brought it out of bankruptcy, then spent about 8 years getting everything wrong. Publishing is a hard business. I did not know how to model that out, what it took to get it done. Basically, can I swear on this?
You can do whatever you want.
Basically fucking it up for 8 years. And then Marvel was sold to Disney, which was great for me because it meant that a lot of the Marvel executives left. They cashed out. I got in touch with Peter Cuneo, who was former CEO of Marvel. At that point, I had started to figure out the model for publishing because publishing is not an easy business from a financial standpoint. Basically, everyone that makes comics, including DC, but not Marvel, loses money. Figured out a way to make that work, had put the team together, contacted Peter over a couple months, convinced him, he became an investor, and with his kind of cachet, we were able to lock in a lot of the deals that I'd been working on and then start to build towards publishing, which we launched in 2012.
How did you first become exposed to Valiant Comics? I mean, in other words, were you a fan as a child?
Yeah. I grew up in Hong Kong. There were no comic book stores when I first got into comics. I had a buddy of mine whose dad would make trips to the US for business, and he would bring back comics. And my friend, being the entrepreneurial individual, let's call him, that he was, would give all his friends one comic. And then if you wanted more, you had to go through him. He was the only access. And he would charge you an arm or a leg. And then we could get Wizard magazine on the newsstand.
Wow.
Read a ton about comics, which is great. I love Wizard for that reason. It's a highly educational tool. It fosters knowledge, appreciation, desire. It's great. And then a comic shop opened, and I walked in. I didn't really know much about comics other than what I'd read in Wizard. So I really knew like X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, and Batman, Superman. That's really it. Walked into the store and gravitated towards Valiant. It just looked the coolest.
Wow. So I was actually talking to an old school dealer a couple weeks ago in Pittsburgh, and he mentioned how he would send Valiant comics all across the globe in the 90s.
Awesome.
I wonder if he sent any to you or any of your friends.
I probably did. We were pretty rabid, man. I was a huge Valiant fan. I had it was weird, man. I look back at photos of when I was young. I was like 12, 13, and there's one that Hunter Goranson, who's now a partner of mine at Hivemind, who was a head of marketing at Valiant, got a hold of and put it in an article, I think the LA Weekly or something, and it's me as a 12-year-old with terrible dress sense and a birthday cake that was a Valiant birthday cake, but it was the Valiant logo. It wasn't a character.
I love it.
It was literally the logo. So I was a rabid fan. We all were.
And at what point did you decide to make a play on Valiant? I mean, how did that come about?
Well, I went to film school at USC. When I got to America, eBay was wondrous because shipping is so easy within the continent of the United States. And so I was buying up all the Valiant books I'd missed, all the ones that used to be worth hundreds of dollars. And at that point, it was the low periods. They were much cheaper. Reading the stories, falling in love with those stories. But I went to film school. I started working in the movie business. I worked at a bunch of different places. I was at Universal Studios, I remember, and Spider-Man, X-Men 1 came out. And it opened at, I think, 65 million, something like that. And I walked in Monday morning, and no one at the studio lot knew why. There was all this chatter. Can you believe it? Why this movie makes so much money? And I knew, the same way you would know. It's because we'd been reading Snikt our whole lives, and we finally heard it. Then a couple months later, Spider-Man 1 opened, largest opening of all time, $114 million. Again, Monday morning, walk in, everyone's like, what's going on? How this movie makes so much money? And it seemed obvious. There was decades of amazing comic books, then toys and cartoons, all this video games. There's generations that love this stuff. Hollywood didn't understand. They still largely don't understand. And I realized I was a bit frustrated with my station. I'd hit a glass ceiling in many regards. And I started thinking, well, maybe IP is a way to kind of skip a couple rungs on the ladder. Whatever happened to Valiant? I loved Valiant. No one's really talking about it. Did a little research and found out that Acclaim that had bought it, video game company, had just declared bankruptcy, and there's going to be a bankruptcy auction.
Okay, we talked a little bit about this before. So it's 1996.
94. Acclaim bought Valiant in 1994.
Okay, it's 1994.
Yeah.
And Bob Layton
Yeah.
brokers a deal for how much?
So Bob Layton, Steven Zarsky, all those guys in 94 broker a deal for $65 million, about $150 million today with Acclaim. After Acclaim tried to buy Image and then realized that they wouldn't have to make just one deal, but several deals since there's these different partners that own their IP. So they moved on, they moved over to Valiant, they tried to buy Valiant, and they did buy Valiant and had a lot of success actually. So they bought Valiant for $65 million. They immediately started developing the characters for video games. They also rebooted the universe to essentially dumb it down to make it more adaptable to video games, which you get a kind of period called VH2 of comics. But they launched the Turok series of games, the Shadowman series of games. There was an Armed Marines game. There's an X-Men or Iron Man crossover game. The Turok games alone made them 2-3 times their purchase price of Valiant.
Wow.
Unfortunately, they had some financial issues, some alleged embezzlement, and had to shutter the whole business about a decade later, taking with it all of its different divisions, including publishing, within publishing, including Valiant, which is how I got involved.
Wow.
It was
okay.
Yeah, I got in. I thought. I called a bunch of my friends in Hong Kong. Luckily, I had some friends that were a little bit wealthier than they were smart, and convinced one of them to be my partner. Together we raised some money, went off to the bankruptcy auction, assuming that every major entertainment company in the world.
Okay, so now, for whatever reason, I've been to those before. Do you want to describe that for others? Because they're pretty wild.
It was wild, but this one was really interesting. I'm curious to hear if this was your experience, because we put $25,000 as a refundable deposit to do our due diligence, look at all the documentation. We get to we schedule time, we get to the warehouse, look at the docs. There's barely any docs there. It's mostly emails that have been printed out. So where are the chain of title docs? Where are the work for hires? Where's all the important stuff? Well, it turns out it was with the LA firm that were doing copyright and rights legal work. The LA firm happened to be run by the former Acclaim CEO's brother. So we request copies of the docs. They don't come. They don't come. They don't come. They don't come. Day of the auction arrives. 83 parties put down $25,000 to do due diligence, of which only 3 parties, including myself, went to the auction.
Wow.
Because no one had any awareness of what they were buying. Now, I had managed to get a hold of a roster of the employees at Acclaim. And I started going down that list, taking them out to drinks, dinner, whatever I could, to get a sense of what was still there, what hadn't been sold off previously. And I got a lot of the documentation that was missing before the auction. So once the auction, the 3 parties were us, a former marketing manager at Marvel, and the CEO, former CEO of Acclaim, which is probably why the documents never showed up. He came in 3rd. We came in 2nd. Couldn't outbid this guy, this former Marvel marketing executive. Auction ends. Same day, 2 articles go up online. Had to be canned articles. A 4th party that couldn't afford or didn't afford to bid had filed intent to use trademarks for about a dozen of the characters and was going to blackmail the lead bidder into partnering. So the lead bidder pulls out. They come to us. I negotiate a reduced price, buy the assets, and start what became a 2-year legal battle to get the intent to use trademarks canceled by the USPTO.
Yeah, for the record, I hope that at some point in time you make this movie. Please continue.
It was fascinating. As a lawyer, you'll find this interesting. So the way that we won is this. There were 2 interesting points. One, I was on the phone with the creator right when we bought the assets. Got on the phone with scheduled a bunch of calls with a bunch of the old creators. Got on the phone with one of them. I won't name him. And he didn't understand that I was from Valiant Entertainment. He thought I was from Valiant Intellectual Properties, which was the name of the company that had filed trademarks. They were hiding behind their lawyer. No one knew who they were. So I get on the phone with him, and he starts talking about my boss, who was the name of the person who was trying to hide themselves, a prominent figure in comics. That was very important. That was very helpful.
How about?
Second thing that happened is that after a certain amount of time, the U.S. Trademark Office requires you to show use in order to hold a trademark. So they had to publish something. They put out a little ash can called the VIP. I forget what it's called. VIP ash can, maybe. They put it out. I think it's C2E2, 50 copies through one of the retailers, and this was going to show use to the U.S. Trademark Office and would jump ahead of us in terms of the trademark filings, which was going to do. The mistake they made is it also infringed on our copyright. Now, we had no contestant on the copyright, they were uncontested. And copyright law, as I'm sure you know, is much more vicious. And so we had them by the balls. They very quickly settled with us for their legal fees. And I can never say who they actually are, so sorry.
It'll make for a great movie.
But then we were off to the races and able to make, with no encumbrances, all the mistakes that people that have no idea how to publish comics were going to make. Spend the next 5 years making all those mistakes.
God, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. All right, let's get back to Hivemind.
Yes, Hivemind.
So the big one that I know everybody wants to talk about is Dinesh says Bloodshot.
Bloodshot, yes.
Tell me more.
So we've wrapped production. We're almost wrapped on the movie itself. The movie's almost locked. We actually have a big screening coming up on Monday, our 4th audience test screening. They've all gone very well. The last one we had, the numbers were through the roof. Sony's incredibly happy. I got to say, man, I really don't care if, I shouldn't say this, the studio likes the movie. I'm only out to make what I think is a great Bloodshot movie, and I have to say I'm incredibly proud of this movie, man.
Oh, good.
If I only ever make one movie, and it's like the kinds of movies that I grew up with, like a Total Recall or RoboCop, obviously not to the level that I think those movies are some of the best movies of all time, but something in that vein, I'd be ecstatic. And I feel like Bloodshot is that. But having said that, Sony have been incredibly, incredibly good partners. I'm not just saying that, I really mean it. Every time we've had the trailer comes out, and
I was super sick when I saw the trailer. I'm like, fuck this movie. I hate it. I hate everything. Rah! And I went back and watched it when I wasn't sick, and I was like, oh, this looks great.
Dude, that trailer blew up. They wanted 2.5 million global views in the first 24 hours, and we got 15 million global views in the first 24 hours. We beat Star Wars on Facebook. It launched.
If this movie's better than Find Me Guilty, it will be my favorite Vin Diesel movie.
I like Find Me Guilty.
I do too.
I also like Pitch Black and and most of the Fast and Furious films.
So what's Vin Diesel like?
What's he like in real life?
Yeah,
super fucking smart, man. He's crazy smart, which I didn't expect, but makes total sense, because if you think about it, this guy is he's got many franchises, right? Guardians, you could push away and say he's just Groot, but he's a legitimate part of that. Riddick is his, Fast and Furious is his, Triple X is his. It's 4 franchises. Been movie star for 20 years. He is one of the biggest social media stars of all time. He's mega wealthy. Like these things don't happen by accident. He's super, super, super smart. He's really knows his stuff when it comes to production, film production. He was helping us produce the movie. He's now a producer on the movie officially. He was great, man. He was really great. He's tough.
Does he like comics?
Very tough. He does like comics. He's more of a tabletop gamer. So he really thinks I think he looks at the world like a tabletop game, like he's a game master.
Really?
But I mean, he was asking deep cut questions about Bloodshot. I mean, one of the things he kept asking me was, when do we get to Bloodsquirt, Dinesh? When do we get to Bloodsquirt?
Wow.
Which is, this secondary character that really you can't get to until you've established the world and the character. But he loves it. He loves it all. He did all his homework.
That's super cool. Nice. Now, let me ask you this. I have a personal affinity for your Bill Gaines biopic.
Yes. William Gaines.
Yeah, the legend.
You with the graphics.
Yeah. Well, this is the one that I really like.
Yeah. You got to get that on a t-shirt. CBLDF do that on a t-shirt is awesome.
I too believe Bill Gaines was right. Tell me about the forthcoming biopic. How did you get involved with EC? I mean, what a just a super shrewd and super cool move.
So I have a partner that I worked with at Valiant, Hunter Gordon. I mentioned he was head of marketing at Valiant, and we worked together at Hivemind. I brought him in, and this is something that he had mentioned to me. He said, "Look, if we really want to do something cool in the film and TV space, we should go after EC." And I said to him, "I don't know, man. EC is amazing, of course, but they don't partner with anybody."
Well, we saw what happened with Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, they had Tales from the Crypt in the 90s at HBO, and allegedly they had a bad experience, and the family still owns all the rights to essentially some of the best comic books of all time. Some of the best comic book stories, like the Criterion, like the Hitchcock of comic books. And he said, well, let me take a shot. Absolutely, take a shot. So he started getting in touch. He started making some phone calls. He had a couple meetings. It was going good. He wrote me in. We started some more meetings. And essentially we said to them, this was our big pitch to them. Look, Hunter and I both come from comics. We're real diehard comic fans. We know this material. We plan to stay in comics. And you can't stay in comics if you were the two assholes that fucked over the William Gaines estate. So the one thing we can promise you, we can't promise you that it's going to happen for sure, but we can promise you we will not fuck you. And that seemed to be enough for them. And we partnered initially on Weird Fantasy, which is one of the titles. On Weird Fantasy, we've had a lot of luck, a lot of success. We put a massive director on that project. We haven't announced who it is yet. And he's become a full partner of ours. We then put a massive showrunner on that project. We just actually about a week ago finished up our kind of big structural document of what the show is going to be. It's an insane show. It's like no other show you've seen. Sent it over to the director who loved it. And we're going to be meeting over the break to hash out some of the finer points and then deciding whether it's time to go to a financier like an Amazon or a Netflix or something like that. So I'm very, very excited about Weird Fantasy. It seems to be, knock on wood, seems to be going very, very well.
Yeah, what I meant with we saw what happened with Tales from the Crypt. My understanding was it TNT or AMC? Well, no, not the original television series. That they were going to
new one.
Yeah, that they were going to relaunch it, and that 24 Hollywood lawyers couldn't figure out how to get the rights situated,
yes.
Which scared the hell out of me.
No, I read that. I'll be honest, man. Look, I don't
know about the veracity of that, but that's at least what was reported. And yeah, so that was all I was saying was that that in and of itself, it has to be like, so what I'm looking for.
I come
scary.
And Valiant was a messy rights situation. So I've had a lot of experience with that stuff, and I know it. I think as well as you can know without being a lawyer, I took a deep dive at the paperwork that EC has, and they're clean, man. So I don't know about that situation. I only know what I read online, which is probably what you read as well.
Yeah.
And to me, looking at the paperwork, it looks like what happened there is a little ego got involved. I know that there was some filmmakers involved and maybe a couple networks. It looks to me like someone went out there and just said that there was a rights issue, so they didn't have to close a deal in a certain way.
Well, I hope that you make a play on Tales from the Crypt next.
We have certainly been asking about it, so we'll see. I think it will go well with Weird Fantasy. That'll be next.
Yeah, I mean, holy cow. Now, the one that I'm, I guess...
Yes, Gideon Falls.
Super interested in is this book. It's brilliant, and I think it may be the sleeper indie book of the last 5 years. Will you tell us a little bit about what you're planning on doing there?
Sure. So we're partnered with Jeff Lemay and Andre Sorrentino. Jeff, who I worked with at Valiant, he worked Bloodshot Reborn, Bloodshot Salvation, Valiant, etc. for us, and we partnered with him, optioned the material at Hivemind, and took our time to bring the right kind of showrunner on board. We have one. I haven't announced who it is. And we put together a pitch that we just took out to a very specific network that we want as our home, our favorite. And they're very excited. I cannot express to you, I can't oversell how excited they are. But to give you an accurate understanding of how excited they are, I would be giving you too much information. But I can say this: I bought, I think I'm up to 8 copies of that Gideon Falls Comics Pro edition at this point. So I would jump on that.
Wow. Yeah, so you brought the next series of questions out of my mind. I was trying to gauge this. I told you I'd only occupy you for about an hour, so I wanted to do a half an hour on interrogating you about what you're doing and spend the second half kind of talking comics. You're an avid collector.
I am. Yes, love it.
A collector first.
Huge fan.
Yeah.
To everyone around me, Churgan, it is a disease, really, an affliction, plague. Too many, man. I'm surrounded by them.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about this. So it started when you were young in Tokyo.
In Hong Kong.
I'm sorry, in Hong Kong. Your buddy was in Tokyo. My apologies. And it traveled with you to the United States. And
the affliction did. My comics.
Yeah, right. The affliction it has never left.
I didn't have that many in Hong Kong. I think part of this is I had the worst collection of all my friends. They wouldn't make fun of me. They were good guys, but it was obvious that my collection was crap. I think I had like a Venom Lethal Protector 1 that was banged up, and that was my primo book in the 90s, an easy book to get in the 90s. And maybe that's part of it. But now I think I just recently moved, and I think I have about 250,000 comic books.
That's unbelievable. Do you sell comics?
No, I have no time to. Nor do I think the will to let them go.
Well, okay, that was kind of my second question, because like I don't have a lot of time, but I'm slowly employing help. Like that's my big plan is to try to get somebody to help move some of the stuff out the door. But I'm like you, I like to hoard them.
If you buy, I'm also a firm believer in if you buy the right ones, you don't really have to rush to sell them. Look, if you
about it.
If you do the kind of Wednesday new comic book day investment, I think that's a little trickier. But if you buy the keys, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Golden Age, and even certain Modern Age, you can kind of put them in a vault, forget them out for 10 years. They're not going to lose value. If you're a little bit lucky, they'll gain a lot of value.
Yeah. So you are at least rumored to have what I believe is the finest piece of modern comic book art on the planet.
The Spidey 300 cover?
That is correct, sir.
I do have that. Yes. It's actually, it is fucking irresponsible. That's in a private collection, isn't it? Should be
only if you don't have really good insurance and one hell of a security system. Otherwise, it's just a win, and I admire what you've done.
I do have hell of insurance, and I do have an incredible security system. And
bada bang.
None of the big stuff I own actually stays in my house. I've got it mostly at the bank. Actually, it's all here today because I just had someone over yesterday. So I take it out of the bank, I put it up, and there's people.
Well, can you show us some stuff?
Yeah, why not? Okay, move. We're gonna move. You ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
Hold on. My wife is gonna get not happy, and Hunter's gonna be pissed at me, but we're gonna do this. I'm gonna get a little view of my house here.
We appreciate it, and tell them I'm sorry, and I have no good excuse, and I'm only kind of a nipshit.
Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a little bit of a. Okay, here we go. All right, hold this. Watch it. I'm gonna do a little. So this is my hallway. Okay, and this thing over here, this black box, is in the middle of my house. It's custom built. You ready? Let me just get this right.
We can't wait.
Yeah, that's why I asked if you were ready. They're all up. They're all up now.
Oh, I love it.
They're usually not. Let's see, what am I missing here? And so,
all right, let me figure it because clearly nobody wants to look at me squinting. How do I remove?
Oh, I used to work with Valiant.
Okay, we can't hear you real well, but we can see you perfectly.
Okay. Okay. I got nothing to say here, man. I'm just gonna sit here. Let's see. Do you wanna see the cover?
Yeah, desperately.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Emphasis on the desperately. Apparently, they can't hear when I'm not on camera. That's word from Jimmy.
That's word from Jimmy. Good. So stay on camera, because it's weird to me when you're not.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Hold on,
I feel like I'm talking to myself. Is there anyone here? Are they listening?
Hold on, I gotta pull this out. I'm gonna put you.
So, can we hear the story of how the hell you acquired the greatest piece of modern artwork, at least in the last, I don't know, what, 50 years?
Yeah, it's gonna piss you off, man. Because it's not a big. Sorry, have you lost me? It's not a. There we go. I'm looking for this while I talk to you. It's not a big story. It was on Heritage. It sold, I think, 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
Someone had it, and Heritage has an option where you can make an offer to people that own art. You can just make offers on anything that's sold in Heritage. And so I went through, over the course of about 4 nights, right after I got fired from Valiant, tried to fill the Valiant-shaped hole in my heart, and I went through all the art from the most expensive sales to the bottom, looking at stuff that I thought, that'd be cool to own, thinking I'd buy one piece, and I just made a shit ton of offers. Everybody said no, because I was lowballing everybody. And the Spidey guy, the guy that owned it, he said yes. If you can do that. I think what I've been told is that he has a business, and he had a business opportunity. Here we go. Here it is. He had a business opportunity that came up, and he wanted some quick cash for the opportunity.
That's beautiful.
All right. Here we go. It's not even framed yet.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy? It's
signed
gorgeous. Several times. So there's one Todd McFarlane signature. There is another. If you can see the blue line. I don't know if you can see the blue line there. Let me see. There's another one there. So 1, 2, 3, and then the back has some instructions. This is Todd at the bottom, right there. So it's signed 4 times, if you can believe it.
Now, does Todd know you got it?
No, and we've actually been talking about something with him. I've been on the phone with him a couple times, and I'm very embarrassed. So I will not mention it to him.
I was a huge McFarlane fan when I was a kid, so it's like, early 90s. I'm maybe like 11, 12 years old, and this is long before computers had white pages. And I was able to figure out from reading Image Comics that there was an image writer artist by the name of Bo Smith who lived in West Virginia, which is where I lived. And I tracked his ass down using phone books at the library and cold called him, and then hustled my parents into taking me to like 3.5 hours away in the southern part of the state to eat dinner with him, just so that I could ask him one question. Tell me about Todd McFarlane. I'm like 11 years old. I didn't care about Bo Smith.
What did he say?
The poor guy. I feel like that was an oft asked question, because he was very gracious and described him as just a super hardworking, super nice, kind of quirky guy who everybody loved. And years later, I've not had any sort of like lengthy conversations with Todd McFarlane. I think I maybe shook his hand once in like at a con, but from every indication that it seems 100% true. The guy's just got like a great personality. I don't know how anybody could not like him, but I did not share that story with him, much like you didn't share the. So I've got the cover to a ASM 300 in my house in a drawer. Yeah. Sorry, it's mine now, not yours.
I have no idea what he would even say. Like, would he be happy? Would he be like, so what? Would he be like, give it back?
He clearly loves the image. He uses it every chance he gets.
Dude, it's an amazing image.
The greatest, the absolute greatest. Yeah, I bought 6 copies or so of the Hulk McFarlane Cosmic Spider-Man issue. I forget what the number is. Yeah, today, because I saw him at a show. They were cheap. I was just like, I'll take all of those.
Nice. He's the best. Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing.
No question about it.
I'm glad he's back.
Any shot that Hivemind will be producing the forthcoming Spawn film? We'll leave it at that, folks.
Thank
you. Let's talk a little bit more about bad ideas.
Bad idea, yes. Bad idea. So what have you heard? I'd love to know what you've heard.
Well, there have been, what's the word I'm looking for? Rumblings in the community that some of the key players from the Valiant comic company that collectors like myself know and love are at least floating the idea, which I think is a brilliant idea, and not anything but of perhaps coming together for a project. But you know, I don't know. This is just kind of like in the rumor mills, and you know, I don't want you to feel like I'm putting you on the spot. So if you can't talk about that, you know, I understand, but certainly inquiring minds want to know.
They would definitely kill me if I told you how much we've already built and how excited we are about the comics. They would not. Matt Kindt would be so unhappy with me if I told you that I think the book that he and Louis LaRosa are working on is the best work that either of them have done. So I probably shouldn't say any of those things. No, but it's been fun. It's just a bunch of people that
we appreciate it,
making cool comics together. Maybe do it again. Maybe not.
Yeah. So what are you reading these days? You got time to read new comics?
Yeah, I read a book. What the hell was it called? It was amazing, but had a weird title. I can't believe I'm blanking on it because I'd love to talk about it. It was about this old couple. You might know it. This old couple. They're mega wealthy. They invest in this new technology that can basically download your brain into like a new baby version of yourself, like clone you and then put your brain there. And it goes horribly wrong, and they become like weird, like malformed baby people. It was called, it's gonna drive me crazy. It was so awesome though.
Somebody in the chat will know, I'm sure. Let me ask you this. Did you get a chance to pick up Hickman's House of X or Powers of X series?
No, that's like the one big blind spot I have.
Yeah, it's good. There's a hardback that was released, so you can just grab it.
Yeah, that's the one I'm gonna do this Christmas. I have that sitting on my shelf, but I couldn't get the first prints. And being a weird collector, I just kept looking.
I mean, I understand. That being said, it's worth a read. You know, I'm sure you grew up on the X-Men too.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Claremont was great. And then I mean, I was 90s X-Men. Good grief.
X-Men, the best.
Yeah. All I wanted to know is that I joke about this all the time. All I really wanted to know when I was a kid was the origin of Wolverine. Nobody cares about origin stories anymore. It was like it haunted me in my nightmares.
It's so weird how that's changed. That was such a big deal,
right?
Thing.
Yeah, nobody cares. It's strange. It's strange. Can we talk a little bit about that? Sort of the changes that you've seen in the market. Just over the course of our brief careers in comics.
Sure. I mean, look, the big one is the ubiquitousness of the availability of the stories. Because growing up, I remember looking at Wizard Magazine. They would say, "Mega story: Gwen Stacy dies."
Okay. Right. Now, hold on, just so that because I know exactly what you're talking about. But so we can be clear, there was a time where key issues focused on key plot developments.
Yeah.
And they were huge, right? I mean, the death of Gwen Stacy was a bigger book than the first appearance of Punisher.
Crazy, right? Today, couldn't be further from the truth. 121, 122, death of Gwen Stacy will probably keep dropping. First Punisher will keep rising. That's probably what it is with Origins as well. I mean, I think at this point you can Wikipedia. You don't have to read the issues, and you can certainly get the issues if you want them. That's probably what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild to me though. That's a wild development, and I don't like it, frankly. You know what I mean?
It'll switch back. I wonder if it'll switch back. Also, I think the kind of CGC, CBCS, PGX, whatever the whole grading, encapsulating phenomenon, which I'm a fan of, means that you don't read the books, and so things like first appearances, covers, just have an increased value.
Yeah, covers matter. Holy cow, because of encapsulation, more now than ever before.
Yeah.
But there certainly wasn't micro grading when I was reading comics, right? I mean, there may have been a scale in Overstreet, but it was liberal at best.
No, and it really helped restoration. I don't know how people would buy big issues before CGC.
Well, it was favored, right? Like there was a time where restoration was a big deal, and it was kind of commonplace for books to be restored. Big books, they got restored, and it was very well accepted. People advertised their restoration services in early Wizard magazines.
Yeah, and
can you imagine if you tried to advertise a restoration service on like the CGC boards? Like
now, people will remove restoration.
Right? Yeah, they throw Molotov cocktails at your shop.
Yeah, it's true. It's crazy. What else was big before? There was a lack of information. Also, I feel right. Like a lot of the first.
No question about it. Yeah, no question about it. It was very much a apprenticeship kind of game. You know what I mean? Like you had to know somebody that knew a little bit more than you. You're right. They had to know somebody. You couldn't buy them. I mean, there was no global marketplace for comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, that you were able to get books overseas.
You're right. It's
wow.
True.
I mean, that's just unheard of. I've got friends that have better lives than me. They travel internationally all the time, and I'll try to hustle them into like going to a comic shop and like FaceTiming me so I can sort of be like, buy me that.
Right.
But it's hard. It's hard to find books in other countries. It just is. Well, and I like foreign comics. Do you like foreign language comics?
I'm trying so hard not to do it, man.
Yeah. Well, you and me both. I've got about a dozen or so live auctions up that Sunday on a bunch of the La Presna Spider-Man Gwen Stacy books. Yeah, we're just trying to get them out of my possession because I'm butthurt that I wasn't able to get a wedding issue.
Yeah,
I let my buddy bid on it. I was like, I'll stay home. He, thank God, won it. But because I don't have one now, I'm like, I don't want any of them. I'm pouting and going home. And I'll probably buy all of them back for 4 times what they're going to sell for here on Sunday in, what, like a year or two?
I'm actually watching all those auctions. I saw them.
Oh, yeah.
I might be sending you some money.
Sorry about that. I apologize in advance.
No, that's the one that I love. Those, because they're not just reprints. They're new.
It's the non-canon. Yeah, I'm like you. That's the ones that are interesting to me. And
but no one's translated those yet, right? There's no translation.
Nah, well, if you can speak German. And I don't like what the guy's done. I met the dude, and he's a nice guy, but frankly, I don't like what he's doing because the way he advertises them on eBay, people can't really tell. He basically photocopied them and put stickers over them so that they're in German. Which I don't really appreciate for 1,000 reasons, but it is what it is. But you're right, nobody's translated them, and I like the story about it. That like the controversy about whether or not they're actually, oh no, you can do that because this is pre-NAFTA, pre-WTO. Nobody expects for American comics to ever be sold anywhere other than America, and those Mexican make them keep their books down there. You know what I mean? Like an international global marketplace, unheard of. Right?
Using 80s and 90s ads from giant movie stars in America in Japan. It's like those. They assumed no one would ever see them.
Nice.
What's the goal?
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
So there's other ones though. There's like X-Men books that are impossible to find. Black Panther non-canons, all that came out of Mexico.
I had no idea. There's more than just the Spidey books.
Yes. Yeah. There's 2 French surfers, which are easier to find, but like I've never even seen the covers of the X-Men books. I've seen 2 of the covers of the Black Panthers, but that's only because I was able to buy them. And presumably there are more, but I think that'll be a thing because
oh, absolutely,
they're non-canon.
Absolutely.
And I don't know how long that's going to take. But a lot of these guys that have them, it's like you can pry them out of my cold dead hands.
People don't know about them. It won't take long once people know.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, you know, it's like anything. Like there's a specific number of strange variant covers for like independent titles, like one hack and slash book that what the fuck, I don't care. It's Slice Hard Covers C. I want it. You know how many copies have been on eBay for sale in the last year? None. Not a one. Right?
That is exciting to you.
It's the cover to the omnibus. It's just a great cover.
I know that cover. Yeah,
great cover. It's not a super expensive book. If the TV show actually would get made, or even just get like a little hit, right?
Yeah.
Copies will come to market.
Yeah.
You know, and they may all dry up. But copies will come. I mean, there's these books, like you said. I think the non-canon are sitting in boxes, but that's kind of an interesting phenomenon. So you're a big Valiant guy. You probably know more than anybody about Valiant comics. Arguably, you're going to say no, but I mean,
I'm not going to say no. There was a. This is a point of pride for me. There was a Valiant fans trivia contest every year at San Diego Comic-Con, and not only did I win it every year, I destroyed everybody.
That makes me happy.
It was like playing with children.
There we go.
We should do a rematch. I haven't done it in a couple of years.
No way. Do they still do that?
They stopped. They stopped because I would win it so roundly every year.
The Valiant fans are rabid.
They're absolutely rabid. They're great.
Like no one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody else that has brand loyalty like that. It's like not just in comics. Like, I mean, sports. The IRA has like brand loyalty like that. You know what I mean? Like the Italian mob, they've got brand loyalty like.
No, they're insane, dude. They're absolutely insane. But it's like if Marvel created the Marvel Universe in the '60s, lasted 4 or 5 years, and then went away forever. That's what Valiant is. I was one of those people that just fell in love. It was a new kind of revolution, a new era.
Yes, what I liked most about Harbinger, for example, is I thought what it captured was the charm of Chris Claremont's X-Men.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there anymore with the X-Men. And here I'm getting that fresh, new, the same kind of like emotion that I had when I first picked up those X-Men books that had been gone, but I was able to get in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
And as you indicated before, we couldn't go back and
but it also was
really understand what the hell was going on, right? Like there was a battle to try to get information. So to get in on the ground floor with Valiant, it was great for young guys.
No, you're right. And a lot of people try to replicate that, and they don't understand that continuity is not quite. It's tough in different ways, but it's not like you can't get the information. You just can't understand the information. There's too much of it. But that was a huge part of Valiant. It was also the storytelling, man. It was more sophisticated. You look at Harbinger.
Absolutely.
Within the first 6 issues, they kill a major character forever. There's cheating. First of all, they're having sex. Secondly, they're cheating. They're having babies. One of them is a closet homosexual. I mean, one of them is overweight. You've never seen that before.
Yeah, think about this. In 1992?
But you wouldn't even see that today. I mean,
no,
today.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right? I mean, we have a gay wedding, and it's on the front page of the Washington Post as if it like has never happened before or something. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's right. Like for whatever reason, a lot of comics are very much an anachronism, and I think that's why so many collectors are so excited about the Bill Gaines biopic because those kinds of free speech issues are still near and dear to many of our hearts.
I think the trick with that, and what I've learned from watching. From running Valiant and then also reading about what Gaines has done and doing the research is, we have this, either we pretend that the social issues aren't social issues, they don't exist in comics, or we do the incredibly progressive version of them which alienates a huge part of the audience. But there's this middle ground where you can just, without having to be liberal or conservative, you can just reflect the world as it is without having to make commentary. And it creates a deeper resonation of character, man.
Yeah. So can you kind of continue that idea, because I think that's important, and I'm glad that you were able to articulate that so artfully. To suggest that comics could somehow be apolitical suggests that like people could somehow be apolitical, and comics have been doing politics as long as comics have been doing comics, right? To some extent. But for whatever reason, there's just so much divisive and derisiveness in the community, for any number of different reasons, but people become very emotionally invested, and these people are wrong and I'm right, and oh my gosh. But a heartfelt story always rings true.
Yeah, I think as long as you're not editorializing, we had a lot of politics in our comics at Valiant, and I didn't agree with some of it, and I agreed with some of it. I never made that known to the writers or the editors or what have you, and I encourage them not to do the same, because the goal really should be, are we reflecting this character's point of view, or reflecting the world as it exists and showing all the different points of view, or are we trying to send a message? Because you shouldn't be trying to send a message. People want escapism from their comic books. They want fantasy. They don't want to have to see the mirror of what they're dealing with in real life, whether they like it or not. And I think that is really the key difference. And you can have a larger impact without editorializing as well. Just showing different viewpoints starts the conversation, and that's all our job should be. Just reflect the world as it is, not try and convince people of one thing or another. At least that's my point of view.
I think it's a thoughtful point of view that I wish others shared. Hopefully, I think, and I may be wrong, I think people do. I think they really do. Whether or not they know they do or not, who knows?
It's also tricky because if you do that well, no one notices. And so we don't rate the people that do it well. But if you do it poorly and you go out there and try to make a statement, that's very obvious. And so we hear a lot about, well, comics are doing this, comics are doing that. 90% of the time, they're doing a good job of not being political or not point of view on politics.
So do you think that there's a particularly hostile kind of like mood in the comic book community all of a sudden, or has this always been there?
I don't think it's.
What is that all about?
I'm a little uneducated in it because the Valiant fan base is so community driven, but I've certainly seen it, and it's there in comics, but frankly it's worse in video games. It's there in it's there in the movie business. It's there in all of entertainment. It's there in anything that has a fan culture. There's something about, maybe it's social media, maybe it's the connectivity, I don't know. There's something we're seeing in politics too. It's probably a systemic issue that we're having as a society because of the interconnection that we all have. And probably what it is your and my age demographic, our generation, are the generation that's sitting on the divide of, we remember a time before this kind of connectivity, but we're living in a time of this connectivity. And so we're the weird, like, ex-buggy whip salesmen that live in a world of cars now. Once we all die, I think the generations below us will have figured it out because they'll have lived in only a world of social media, and they'll probably understand how to utilize it. I think we're the ones, and the ones that are old enough, that are fucking it up, frankly.
I hope so. I hope you're right. Yeah, I really hope you're right. I'll tell you where I didn't get any of that was at Baltimore Comic Con.
Great show. I love that show.
I mean,
Martin Nathan's show.
In other words, people were so universally kind of like happy to be there, happy to be a member of the comic community. Like, let's talk comics. What are you into? That's cool. This is what I'm into. Tell me more. There was none of the like.
Yeah, he runs it. Martin Nathan, who stores comics, cards, and collectibles, or is it cards, comics, collectibles, something like that. Great store, great guy. He's really good about setting a tone. I think that's why you have that. There's a few other shows like that. NC Comic Con, SC Comic Con. Those two shows are great. The Berkeley Comic Show is great for that. They have to build environments that allow.
Now, have you been to the Torpedo Con that's before SDCC?
No,
I hear everybody talking about it.
I've not. I've heard about it.
Yeah, I hear everybody talking about it.
Have you been?
I have not, no, but I'm thinking about going this year simply because of sort of the reviews. People claim that, you know, there's just the best books there. Go to buy. It's great. You need to be here and experience it. Yeah. I mean, they claim, at least those that have attended, that it's like the solution to there's no comics at SDCC. They're like, oh, well, don't worry, just come a week early and you can go.
Yeah, the timing is tricky.
Oh, that's a lot. It's a lot of time.
I'm seeing a lot of those now. There's a lot of little shows like that popping up that are very, very
nice.
My favorite is Berkeley, which is, you got to check out Berkeley now. 4 times.
When is that?
4 times a year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Are you a California guy?
I am. I'm in LA.
I almost took a job in LA working for the Merlin Law Group. If you need to ever file an insurance claim, check out my buddy Chip. He is an ace, an absolute ace.
Hopefully, I will never have to file an insurance claim.
Yeah, I hope so too. But you know, sometimes you have like an exploding pipe, not in the safe room.
Yes, no.
I
don't usually live there, man. So
well, that's good. Let me ask you this. We've got about 4 minutes left. I want to try to take one beat and talk a little bit about the future of Hivemind. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us. I know that everybody who's here watching us live is appreciative, and it means the world to Jimmy and John and myself. Where does Hivemind go from here? Where do you see yourself situated 2 years out, 5 years out? What's the kind of stuff we can look for in the future?
The whole point of view of the company is interesting. You know, Sean Daniel is this mega producer, Kathy Ling, mega producer, myself, Jason Brown, all very accomplished that they are. And they have a point of view that I love, which is we don't feel like we have to jump on something because it'll be a big thing or it'll be hot or it'll get made. Everyone seems to be bringing a point of view of let's just make cool shit and help make cool shit. And so I think you'll see basically us doing more of the same. You're not going to see us become this kind of mega producing company that just shits out a lot of stuff. But you'll see more of, hey, why was no one doing a William Gaines biopic? Now someone's doing it. That kind of thing. Or trying to carefully, with a lot of care, build a show like Gideon Falls. So we're just going to do more of that. We're working a lot more comics that we haven't talked about yet. And a lot of other cool stuff. So you'll probably just hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm so happy that Hollywood is starting to figure out that comic books are pre-made focus groups that have storyboards that have already been done that they can just kind of take a look at. And I'm so happy that we have someone like yourself there to educate those who are less familiar with the hobby that we just love dearly. It's been, I mean, a treasure and a treat for myself and all those who are listening. Thank you so much, Dinesh. We appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.